That's because it was on the website. Anyway, we figured it out.
We got it.
We good. How are you doing? How's everything going?
Buddy?
I'm all right, given the bullshit times that we have going on now. But thanks for. I mean, it took us some time to get going here, but thanks for finally getting doing this with me. It's been a while since I saw you.
It's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, a couple of years now. But I mean, you're doing some great things. And before we get into the other shit, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, as a coach in a pandemic, like I know you guys were still going and you still had athletes competing and fighting. How difficult was that for you as a coach, as a martial artist, as a business owner, to just even get these guys competing in the ring during this last 2 years?
Well, it's relatively easy when Para was open, and when Aegis is open, it's easy. But in between, it was a little bit tough. Niagara top team opened up their doors to help us out, and Sky Hudson had a little gym in Burlington that we made do with. But, so we're lucky to have a lot of people looking to help out, but there's a bit of a pain running around.
And how was traveling and all that to prepare for the
It's a disaster. It's a disaster. Every time I go to the States, it's a different protocol.
Yeah.
And people at the border have no clue what they're talking about.
What do you mean? Because I haven't been able to leave because of, like, I haven't had to fight yet because of my injuries and stuff. So what is it like at the border in terms of?
Well, it depends on what time you go. Sometimes I walk through, no problem. Sometimes they look at your test. Sometimes they don't look at your test. Sometimes they care. Sometimes they don't. It really depends on who you get. And like I said, a lot of them don't really know like the up-to-date protocols. I've gone over the border and had to explain to them like why I was right.
Yeah. And so what is it like for the guys competing during this? Like, I know, like, normally when you compete, you know, there's nerves and all that kind of shit, but with the added pressures and protocols and stuff that's going on with the travel, do you notice a difference in some of the guys' mentalities going into these competitions? Or
no, more of our vet fighters have been fighting in the States. More of the younger guys have been fighting in Canada.
Yeah.
So with the older guys, they're a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more comfortable with the just rolling with the punches and kind of accepting whatever happens.
Yeah.
So it's been good that way. The young guys have been pretty lucky to fight in Ontario. Fight in Ontario and BC. So there's not really much restrictions going out there.
Yeah. BC has been holding quite a few. I mean, Ontario's, I think, only one show since the whole pandemic, right?
Yeah, I think one. Yeah.
Yeah, which is terrible for the athletes. Like, I don't think people understand professional is one thing. Like, but for guys that are coming up, like, this is a huge hit to their life in terms of their goals and aspirations to become an athlete and to compete. Because there's no opportunities, and I don't see there being many, especially at the amateur level. There's not going to be many coming up in the next 5 years. So, like, for the sport of MMA in Canada, I feel like this is like, you remember when we had the first event here in Toronto for GSP and Jake Shields, and MMA exploded and it kind of put things on the map. I feel like this is like a full reversal of that whole progress that was made.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Do you see it being able to recover it anytime soon?
Well, the top gyms will always make do. We can always go to the States. We're not that far from Rochester to get the amateur guys fights.
Yeah.
So there's always other solutions. It's just not time efficient. That's all.
Yeah. And I mean, have you had a guy test positive after he made the travel yet?
After travel, no. Everybody I know has test positive.
Yeah.
But it's only from domestic.
Yeah. Okay. So more like the local guys, they test positive, kind of.
Catch it from work, catch it from a family member, catch it at the gym. Like, it's coming from everywhere. But no, I don't think I've had anybody test positive from international travel yet.
Yeah, and I mean, before we move on to like some more fun, more, I guess, more controversial shit, Do you think that some of fighters in general have been sort of demoralized from competing going forward in the next couple of years? You know how when you have an MMA scene, you have veterans of the game, you have new guys, you have guys who are middle of the road or gatekeepers, ones that guys that they just take fights, and sometimes we kind of rely on those kind of guys to build up certain guys' careers and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that we're going to lose some of that volume in terms of access to good matchups for especially Canadian fighters?
Um, once we release these restrictions, assuming we ever do,
Yeah,
I don't think so. But yeah, in the meantime, like it's hard to match up Canadian guys in Canada right now. Um, I don't think Americans are trying to bring us down as much just because there's so many more hurdles.
yeah.
But once all the restrictions are gone, I don't see that being an issue.
Don't see it being an issue.
No.
Well, and I mean, you guys' business got hit hard from at the start of this, and can you like walk us through like what kind of happened with Parabellum and that transition you and Lucas made?
Well, essentially, what happened, I think the business that you've seen that survived the first wave or
Yeah,
the second wave were businesses that had a landlord that was willing to play ball with them. And not that our landlord was necessarily bad.
yeah.
They need to get paid too. And the government subsidies were not helping the businesses like the people thought they were.
No, they weren't.
Most of them were like clickbait. It's just like people on Instagram, like, oh, the government's helping out people so much. But if you actually open up and look what they're doing, it wasn't doing shit all for the businesses.
Yeah,
So we just got left out to dry, and there was no foreseeable future of being able to open back up. And the landlord was asking for more money, and we had to make that hard decision.
yeah.
Obviously, me and Lucas were planning on opening up again at some point, and it looked like we weren't going to go back in the lockdown until we opened up again this time.
And then
But here we are. Yeah, here we are.
like this happened in 2021. Like I was sitting on New Year's with my wife, and my wife was like, "Everyone's so excited about 2021," and she's like, I don't understand why they're excited because it's going to be more of the same shit."
I agree.
And I felt the same way this year too. Like
Yeah,
we were sitting on the couch. Like I'm not even that old, but I got kids, so we can't go fucking party and shit, right? So I'm
yeah,
just sitting on the couch New Year's. I'm like, 2022 is gonna be more of the same shit. And
for
then
sure.
lo and behold, 2 days into the pandemic, everything shut down again.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
never thought that we weren't going to go in lockdowns here. If the vaccines are on our way out of this and we've all been vaccinated, we're at like 90% vaccination rate.
yeah,
If we can't take a hard stand now and say like we're not shutting down, then we have no hope. So I was more hoping now that people were going to protest this one a little bit more, which they're obviously not.
yeah.
And here we are.
Now I know you've been quite vocal about things that are going on, and rightfully so. I think that if we peel the layers back of this thing, uh, we can kind of see what's going on. But unfortunately, we live in Canada, and I shouldn't say unfortunately. It's a great place to fucking live. But I mean, the people in Canada are not seem to be as awake as other countries around the globe. Like one of the things I wanted to just ask you is what do you think is what's the difference? Why is Canada so far behind and kind of peeling back the layers and seeing what's going on?
Well, there's a couple things I think to take consideration here. Canadians have this anti-American approach where if they do
Yeah,
something, we have to do the exact opposite because we're better than them. We've
yeah,
always had this stance, and in this kind of situation where they're opening up and killing lives, we're saving lives. So we're doubling down on not being them. I almost imagine if their roles were reversed and they were closing down, we would open up. And
yeah,
it's always kind of been that way between us and the states, although we have a close relationship. And we also have a society that doesn't follow politics, that doesn't pay attention. They vote more by like ideology as opposed to reality.
yeah.
We think that we have like two or three different conservative parties, or sorry, right leaning parties here. We have one right leaning party. That's the People's Party.
Yeah.
People have
Uh-huh.
no idea the conservative party is left of center. We're
Oh,
so ignorant.
100%, 100%. And I mean, that came down to this was the first election where like I publicly always tell people I vote conservative. That's just the way me and my family our values align. this was our first time where we did it, and it was for a few reasons because people vote according to the way things are, and I voted this time to where I want the country to head to, right?
Yes,
And
that's a good point. Actually, I was thinking about that before the election too. Sorry, go on.
yeah, and like it's nobody's business, but I'll straight up tell public. We voted for the PPC, and
Yep.
knowing that in our area, we're at Yonge and Eglinton, we're in Oakville, Toronto. Knowing that it would leave no mark on the results of the election,
Mhm.
and rightfully so. When we looked at their numbers, it was not even close. Our riding was won by a liberal. It was easy.
Yeah.
Um, and but that being said, I went to sleep that night knowing I did the right thing for me and my family because I voted for the direction I wanted the country to go.
Hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of people got lost in this last election. Like, I'm a realist. I face facts. Like, there was a very small chance Maxine was going to win
Yeah, almost
overall,
none. Yeah.
or almost none, because it goes by seats, right? But
Yep.
if you look at the numbers of how things went in this particularly this last election, and this is going back to your point how we compare it to America all the time. We we're more divided than the Americans are,
I would think so.
in my opinion,
Mhm.
because of what you said. We don't have clear set parties. One's right leaning, one's they're all over the fucking place.
Yeah. Well, I think we're divided more on the COVID front. Um, they're probably a little bit more divided on some of the racial issues,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
stoked by politics too.
those are both. Like, I mean, that's a whole another fucking 2 hour
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
the right leaning politics in the states, like one of the things I admire about the U.S. is regardless of what side that those guys stand on, it's they stand their ground. If they hold those beliefs, they kind of hold those beliefs,
Yep.
and it's one of the things I admire about Americans, and I admire more and more and more now, especially because looking at what's going on in Canada, um, I'm kind of coming to the realization that not many people have a belief system here. Or
No, no, absolutely not. You know, if you ask somebody, like, tell me the most important thing to human life, they'd probably say, well, I probably think healthcare. I'm like, how? How is healthcare number one?
yeah,
Like, if you're forming a society, you're going to say healthcare is the most important thing. Wouldn't freedom of speech be the first thing? Because if you don't have freedom of speech, how are we going to have a real conversation about healthcare?
yeah,
You haven't really thought about this topic, and most Canadians haven't.
no, and I mean, do you think it's a problem with immigration? That would be one of my first.
The immigration one, I try not to go down the immigration avenue too much. Do we have an immigration issue? For sure. Do I believe immigrants should be coming here? Absolutely. We're
Yeah,
all immigrants to Canada, right?
yeah,
I'm a huge believer in having a multicultural country. Um, now, how we do it has to. Canada comes first. That's when I think about immigration. Canada comes first. The longevity of Canada comes first, and then adding to Canada. We're
yeah,
like just adding to Canada and like seeing whatever happens right
yeah, and I mean, I don't think a lot of people know this, but I know it because me and my wife are Jesus freaks, so we're very involved in our church, and
now. Yep.
we have a lot of Brazilians coming over, right? And I've seen this with my parents too. My parents are immigrants from South America, and
Yep.
when a government brings in people rather easily, which they're doing right now, um, the immigrants tend to feel like they owe the
For
certain
sure.
government a due or something
Yep.
because they're the one that's brought them over. And I don't want to call out my family, but I'm gonna because it's I see it quite frequently. Like my parents and my family and my extended family, they've been here for 40, 50, 60 plus years. Like my dad's 70. They've been here for a while. And
Mhm.
you would think over the span of 70 years, 60 years, they that loyalty wouldn't have like they feel like they owe the government that was in power
Yeah,
when
yeah, yeah.
they were immigrating to Canada a due. Like
For sure.
if we don't vote for them, then we're not being loyal to that party.
Yep.
And and But then when this policy comes through, when they have different policies and they're the first ones to disagree, like,
Yeah,
oh, that's stupid. But I'm like, you voted for that.
yeah, exactly.
So I'm not like you said, I'm not against immigration. I think all immigrants have value to any country. Uh,
And it's one of the key things that make Canada such a great country.
yes, yeah.
However,
However,
yeah,
I feel like because of our sort of speak open border policy over the last how long has Trudeau been in? 8 years almost.
oh, a lifetime now.
It's gonna keep going. But I, f-
Jeez.
but I feel like since that time, and I'm not just picking on the Liberal Party. Like there was an issue a bit before too. Um, there's that little bit of hesitancy, and I think also too when you have this many immigrants coming into a country and you have this global situation happening, those people are a little nervous still to speak up because
Yep,
they still feel like they're new here. They don't have
yep,
the right. They don't have the right to complain about anything. But
yep.
newsflash: as long as you have a citizenship, you have the right to complain about anything the fuck you
They have
want.
the exact same right I have.
Like, exactly, and I think that's where we're losing a lot of people. And I don't know if you looked at the statistics, but like out west, Alberta, those guys, they must feel like a pack of shit right now because the only votes that really matter in this country are Toronto and Quebec. Like it
Yep.
pretty much dictates.
And Quebec, well, that's the whole mess.
Yeah,
Our system is an absolute mess.
yeah. I mean, let's talk about that. What do you think about that piece of shit running that province over there?
He's a scumbag. And anybody who supports him, you're a scumbag.
Yeah,
You're going to tax people because they didn't get the vaccine. You're going to stop them from going to essential services. You're going to put a curfew on them. Like, this is not freedom at all. What are we even talking about?
yeah. But people tend to fall like. Why does he have such a hold on that province? You think?
Well, I think you got to live in that province to fully understand the province because it's a completely different political scene than it would be out west. It would be in Ontario and out east. It
Yeah,
has its own gravitational pull, and I don't fully understand it. If I had to guess, some of it has to do with the amount of people they have on government subsidies and how little they pay and how much they take from other provinces. There's a lot of things to take consideration there, but they're definitely not pulling their weight.
no. And one of the things I read a few weeks ago was that, I mean, they have a provincial election coming up too, but the last provincial election they had, he won by a landslide because it's basically corporate. He has a lot of corporate interest into that party, and
Yep.
I think the closest party next to them is the Liberal Party, and it's not even close. It's
Yeah.
like a 30-point lead. Um,
Well, and they're supposed to be the most corrupt government in Ontario. Or sorry, in Canada too.
which one?
The Quebec government.
Oh yeah, for 100, well, I mean, it's a travesty that we have our prime minister who clearly has financial interests with like companies like SNC Lavalin and has
Yeah,
done shady shit, like very public shady shit,
daily almost.
and no punishment has been handed down from anything, and it's
No.
almost like some of the opposition parties seem to just forget it, right? Like,
Well, I don't think there's been a good success rate on attacking him because the people that hate Trudeau hate him already, and the people that like him. So you need to win some more people that like him, and attacking him hasn't led to more votes. I think that's the approach that they're taking.
yeah,
So they're waiting for like the big one where everybody's like, "Holy crap, this is too far. We obviously have to kind of side with somebody else," or they're trying to find people with new policies. Like the new Conservative Party was a very liberal approach.
yeah.
They completely changed their politics there. I think
Well,
that's British
O-
vote.
O'Toole didn't pick a side. He was just playing the whole middle the whole time, and the election finished and he disappeared. It was
For
like,
sure. But and you know what, man? I actually think he didn't do an awful job. If you're trying to win the people in the middle, you're trying to win the moderates.
yeah,
I don't think he did an awful job. What I didn't like, and where I think he lost people, and I think to the PPC, is that he wouldn't say I don't support forced vaccines.
yeah,
If he said that, I think it would have won a lot more people.
and quite a few more seats as well. Like,
Yeah,
the issue I see with the Conservative Party, and I would jump right back on if I saw the leader, like Pierre Poilievre.
yeah,
Um, he to me is the leader that that party needs. I think that
Absolutely.
I
He,
sorry, go
he's the
ahead.
only leader we have in Canada right now that is actually trying to fight for Canadians. Well, sir,
Yeah,
that's not fair. He's the only one at the top that has a big name.
yeah, and he's the way he speaks, I feel like he's not a physically imposing guy. He's no Putin. He's not gonna walk into a room and physically intimidate guys.
No,
But when he speaks, like when you hear him speak when he's in the house
yeah.
questioning people, he has a presence and he has an ability to frustrate the shit out of people because he
Well,
was
because he has numbers.
yeah he's very educated, and
Yeah,
when he has his avenue, like to the point he's trying to get across, he'll just keep hammering it and keep hammering it and keep
yeah.
hammering it. And I've seen um opposition, liberals, anybody he has been speaking to, they actually hate talking to that guy
For
because
sure, I would too.
because they know that uh, they're they're going to get backed into a corner. And I
Yeah,
think, and that's one of the problems that a lot of Canadians have is when they see those things, they don't take it into account. Like
no,
you have these debates that go on. And that's what Canada's about. You know, you can't just put in a law and go about
for
it.
sure. Yeah,
There's these debates and these talking, and they go into the house and they talk about it. Like he really backs these people into a corner where they're not making any sense when they respond.
yeah.
But
Well,
Canadians seem
if they
to,
respond,
if they respond, and Canadians just seem to like ignore the fact that these people can't respond to these questions. It's
yeah.
just like with regards to our finances. I mean, Canada is in a big fucking hole in
It's
terms of
an astronomical hole. They got a hole that we might not get out for 100 years.
a hole that kids are being to pay for, right?
Yeah, we used to take this approach where we used to protect the kids and shelter the kids. I was watching the documentary, the World War II in color,
Okay,
and Britain was being attacked by the Nazis, and I think it was London specifically. And London took all the little kids and they took them out to the countries, and the parents and the fathers and mom and dad stayed inside the city and did all the work around the city. So
yeah,
they wanted to protect the kids. Now what we're doing is we're throwing the kids in the middle of the city, and the parents are moving out to the outside. We don't give a shit for the kids' future. We don't give a fuck about protecting them. Like nothing against vaccine. I took this vaccine. Why are we giving it to kids?
yeah.
Why are we putting them in harm's way? Why are we racking up the debt? Like even when you go camping, you go to a campsite. The idea is to leave the campsite cleaner than you got it. Right? Take one piece of garbage with you. We're now just throwing all our garbage and leaving it for the kids to deal with in 10 years, 20 years,
Mm.
100 years from now.
Yeah,
That's insanity.
and I don't think parents care at this point. Like
They
uh,
think they're doing something noble.
yeah, and as a parent myself, I'm extremely fortunate that my kids aren't in the school system right now because they're a little too young. But
Yeah,
my daughter, she's supposed to start next year, and we are about 95 to almost 100% not going to send her this first year
yeah.
because first of all, I'm not sending my kid to school in a mask. It's just
Mhm.
it's not happening.
I
And
agree.
like I'm not an anti-masker. Like everyone likes to. The minute you say something like you're anti this, like fuck you. No, my my.
Those are stupid arguments because you're not even having the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason I don't want to send my kid to school in a mask is because I don't think that she needs to wear one, and I don't think it's necessary. And I also don't think that it's good for her development to be
Well,
wearing. Like
I don't think any of those arguments are really refutable. The arguments are absolutely true.
yeah, like I have my in-laws. She had her daughter go to school for the first time, junior kindergarten or senior kindergarten. I can't remember, but it's the same shit. And what she noticed is that after sending her daughter to school for 3, 4, 5 hours a day, coming back home, she stopped being able to recognize facial, like if she was mad at her because she was staring at a an adult all day in a mask.
Yeah.
So there's no facial recognition. There's no cues. There's no uh like like see how me and you are talking through a computer, but I can still understand,
For
if
sure, yeah,
if you're fucking pissed off at me or if you're happy or if you're fucking laughing. Like when you're wearing a mask, you can't tell if another person's smiling.
for sure. Well, especially a kid, like we kind of understand it. Us missing years seeing facial recognition, we'll go back to what we remember from the last 30 years.
Yeah,
A kid has no data, no memory of that stuff.
Yeah,
and you're missing a very important developmental years of their life.
and like,
And who knows what the long term ramifications of that are? Who
oh,
knows?
oh, they're going to be dramatic, and I mean that's why I'm extremely thankful my kids were young, and I was able to kind of shelter them from a lot of the bullshit that was going on. But like,
Yep.
I think a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, it snowed. I took the kids to the hill to do some like tobogganing and shit. And we go down the hill. My son, he's a fucking menace. He goes running, and he goes up to a group of kids, smiling like he's freaking. He's 2 years old. He's not like
Yeah.
he's not a fucking threat. And these two younger kids, they couldn't be more than grade 3 or 4, and they're like, "Oh, you're so cute. Sorry, we can't come close because of COVID."
Oh my god.
And I'm like, I didn't say anything to them. I just picked up my kid, but I walked away, and I'm like, that's like someone in grade 3 or grade 4
Yeah.
who's afraid of a baby
Yeah.
outside, and they're wearing masks too.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, so this is the thing with the mask. Man. What are these masks doing? And I'm not anti-masker. I'm anti doing dumb shit. When
yeah,
you're wearing a cloth mask, if you can smell cookies through your mask, guess what? It's not doing. It's not protecting you.
yeah,
I don't wear my mask no more. In the condo I live in, I came from the basement all the way up to the 10th floor, but I stopped to the first floor, and there was a lady and her kid there. And as soon as the doors open, the kids see me without a mask on. The kids started crying.
really,
The kids
Jesus,
started crying. The lady's like, "It's okay. He's leaving. He's leaving." I'm no threat to you. Well, what did you teach your kid behind closed doors?
yeah, like,
I'm vaccinated. I've recovered from COVID. I don't understand what the issue is. And if you want to wear a mask, you shouldn't be wearing these cloth masks. Wear an N95 mask. Wear a real respirator. We have real things out there that will protect you 99%.
yeah,
But
and
we all want to virtue signal and put on these cloth masks.
yeah. I'll say I never wore a fucking mask in my building. I just walk around and do
Yeah.
whatever I want to do. But I've had a couple same situations where, okay, I was in the elevator. I'm the fucking guy in the elevator. I was there first. The girl comes in. She's like, "You got to put your mask on." I'm like, no.
Too bad. Yeah.
And she's like, "Well," she holds the button, right? She's like, "Well, we're not gonna go until you put your mask on." I'm like, "Well, I have a fucking chicken right here I just picked up from Costco. Like, I'm good. I can sit here and eat my chicken all fucking day, and we can be
Yeah.
here for 25 hours. So you gotta let go of that bun, or you can get out. I'm not like putting it on." And it
Yeah.
wasn't, and I'm not doing it because I'm an asshole. But like, if I was the one coming in and she was first, sure, I'll get out and you go up,
Mhm.
and I don't mind taking the stairs. But like,
Yep.
don't come in and try to like do that to me. Like, it's. I mean, I'm fortunate I didn't have many of those incidents, but I mean, those are the things that kind of get to you.
Yep.
Like,
For
you get,
sure.
and it
And
makes
again, it's not
so
providing any more safety.
no, no,
It absolutely is not. These masks are a joke. It's embarrassing. Show me the studies that say these cloth masks do anything. And it can't tell me it protects you 5%. 5%, 10%, fuck out of here with that.
yeah, and I mean, do you think at this point the mask is more of a political statement than it is for protection?
It's a sign of compliance. It's a sign of, we're part of the coalition of we don't like COVID. That's
Yeah,
all it is. Most people do not care that I don't wear a mask.
mm,
There's a few people that care a lot, and that's it.
yeah, and I mean, I mean, it's a virtue signaling thing at this point too. Uh,
Absolutely.
And I mean, if you go just like right across the border, it's like right versus left thing. People who lean on the left, we wear the mask. People who wear on the right, they're non-maskers. They just want to kill people, and I mean that couldn't be further from the truth. Uh,
Absolutely not.
but
I'll buy people N95 masks if they're scared.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
And I've been out of a job for a year and a half. So it's not about money.
Yeah,
It's not about safety. It's virtue signaling, like you're saying.
yeah. But how do like? I think a lot of the questions that people are having now, and because you're a martial artist and you're in very good control of your emotions, well, at least we are most of the time, not all the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But how do we deal with this conflict on a daily basis? Because like what I'm noticing now is individuals are having issues mentally because this is what our fourth time going through this, right?
Yeah.
Some people have complied their whole way through. They've done everything. They've taken their shots. They've socially distanced. They sacrificed family events. They sacrificed work, pleasure, a whole lot of you listed off. Um,
Yep,
and what I'm noticing now is people are saying, "Well, what was the point? We're right back where we started 2 years ago."
that's a good
Um,
question. But what's
a-
the point?
as somebody who's in complete control of themselves, right? How do people kind of break out of this now? Because I can see this being a hell of a mental struggle.
Well, I think the way Canadians do this is we avoid real conversations. And I don't think that's the way forward. I think we should have real conversations. If you're in a group setting and someone says something that is absolutely wrong, you disagree with, have a conversation. Don't be a dick about it, but
Yeah,
say, this is how I see it, and work your way through it. Because an emergency doesn't last 2 years. An
no,
emergency is quickly and swiftly dealt with, and then we move on. This is life now. If you think COVID is going away, if you felt the narrative that we were going to get rid of, eradicate COVID via the vaccine, you were lied to. They
yeah,
never thought that was possible. So we have to deal with this. And if you want to sit inside, I support your right to do that the rest of your life.
yeah, exactly. That's your life, right? If you want to sit inside and hide away, go ahead and do it.
And because I don't want it, doesn't make me a far right extremist. I'm a liberal voter. Like, but my values are almost completely liberal. Not
Yeah,
this liberal party,
yeah,
like a traditional liberal sense, right?
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
center of left.
yeah. And I think when I say that we lean more conservative, like me and my wife, it's often like misunderstood because a lot of the things I stand for right in the fucking middle, right?
Yeah, same
Um,
me.
there's certain issues where I'm like, okay, I understand your point of view.
Yeah,
I respect your point of view. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand it, and we try to find a middle ground. I mean, that's what democracy should be, right?
for sure. And you know what, man? You know what I think we got away from? The middle ground for most people in this world, is that they want to help people out. They
Yeah,
don't want to fuck people up. They don't want to hurt them. Now, how they digest that and how they think like helping people out is a little bit different. But we think if you don't agree with me, you're a bad person to want to help people. That's not usually the case from my understanding or from my conversation with people.
yeah, and I mean, it's frustrating to talk about it, but you know, uh, people's mental health is suffering now.
Absolutely.
It's and like I'm an open book. I like that's why I do this shit. That's why I started a podcast, and that's why like when this last lockdown hit, it was either this Monday or Sunday or something like that. Like it was a rough day, right?
Yeah.
It was like fuck, man. Now I have to adjust again. I'm getting healthy. I was in a routine to get back to doing the things I love to do, to competing and all that stuff. And I was feeling good about myself. And now we just boom, we hit a wall again, right? But you know, people like me and you who have done something difficult like mixed martial arts, like it's one of the more difficult things to do as a human being.
It
Um,
have to be. There's a few things out there I can think off the top of my head, but not that many.
not that many. So it gives us a little bit of a mental edge to break through some of those barriers because we have to do it to compete, or even to train sometimes with hard guys. And a good black belt walks into the room, you're like, "Fuck that
Mhm.
guy," right? There's always mental things you have to overcome. Now, the general population, they don't have those
No.
tools in their tool bag, and so when these hard times, these hard situations come along, they hit a wall, and
Mhm.
it's not just for a day; it's for a long time. Um, Now I know that you've been quite vocal about people reaching out if they're struggling. How else? What else can they do? What else can we do to support these people? Because at this point in this pandemic, or I don't even call it a pandemic anymore. This is a mental warfare state,
Mhm.
right? This is a war on consciousness. How can people like basically keep themselves from falling over the edge?
Well, you got to get out and start living life. You got to have a social circle, right? All the things that we had before the pandemic, things that we were seeing important, family, fitness, community, all those things. We got to get back to them.
Yeah,
And just because your government says don't see your friends, don't go work out, don't do all these things, it doesn't mean that's right. Go do it.
and but I think most people are afraid of the fines, like the penalties. You know what I mean?
I, I'm 100% with you. I get it. I don't have money to pay the fines. However, if I don't believe a law is just, that
Yeah,
doesn't mean that we should just follow it blindly.
yeah,
That's not democracy. That's not freedom. If a law doesn't make any sense and is not leading to a better outcome, why are we accepting it? Why does a society accept it?
yeah. And do you think it's because Canadians are just? I mean, a lot of people say Canadians are weak. Do you think that's the case?
Um, no, no, I don't think Canadians are weak. Um, I can't believe that. I think Canadians are lazy. I think Canadians aren't doing their homework. I've had a lot of heated conversations with people that have these really strong beliefs on COVID.
Hmm.
And I'm like, do you know what you're saying is absolutely wrong? Well, no, I heard it on the news. Like, well, it's absolutely wrong.
Yeah,
So I think people get in the habit of watching one news source, not critical thinking, and because they haven't really been affected by lockdowns and stuff like that, they assume that nobody's been affected by all this.
yeah. And well, what you just said was really important there because I'm like a lot of my clients, a lot of people I work with, a lot of people that I have through my business, they're not affected by this.
Yeah,
They what it seemed I was gonna say last March, but it's been that fucking long. 2 years ago in March
yeah,
when they said we're locking down in 2 weeks to flatten the curve, their work set them up with a remote station. Their paycheck never changed.
yeah,
Um, Nothing changed in terms of finances for them, except
yeah,
for the the changes to the lifestyle. Like you're not able to
yeah.
go, and so they were still able to buy shit. They were still able to put food on their table. That was one of the worries that they never had.
Hmm.
And where I haven't had that worry either, right? But that wasn't because of I wasn't affected. That was just because of hard work. I realized what was going on really fucking early, and I'm like, no, if I don't step shit up, we're gonna get squashed, right?
For sure.
So I'm fortunate in that sense where I had that work ethic. But a lot of people, regardless of work ethic, they got fucked,
Yep.
right? And I think you guys were a good example of at the start. You guys got fucked. Like a lot of martial arts schools got fucked.
Yep.
Um, like I'm not going to air anybody's personal business out there, but there's a lot of places I train at now that they've taken their own personal finances just to keep the place open.
Absolutely. That's
And
why that's what you had to do because the government didn't support you.
yeah, and a lot of people didn't realize those subsidies didn't really come that easy.
Well, they went to the lead's friends. They went to Justin Trudeau's friends. They went to
Yeah,
Air Canada. They went to Lululemon. All these people got it.
yeah, and Good Life got it,
Yeah.
but for the small bit, like from what I understand, is you can be on the hook for 3 months rent, right? Like say you owe 3 months rent, but the check doesn't come every month. It was like
Yeah.
sometimes in a lump sum. So like the landlords are attacking uh uh their clients, hey, what the hell? Where's the money?
Yeah.
Right? And
And rightfully so because they need money too. Like I'm
yeah,
not mad at them.
no, you can't be mad at them. They're running a business as well, right?
Yeah.
And but the money wasn't just free flowing. And then like the CERB was another thing. I mean, that was another shit fuck because people were taking the CERB who didn't need the CERB.
Of course, I know people in my family that probably benefited, probably made more money in their entire life in the last 2 years than they have ever, and they obviously support these lockdowns because of that, not
Yeah,
because they're moral, not because they want to save any lives.
yeah. And do you think that's why some Canadians are still on, Team COVID?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, like every side, every if you think we should have more freedom, or if you think we should be locking up, every side has a bad group in it because there's a side that says we want freedom, and there's a group of people that don't give a shit about people's lives. They don't care if people die or live as long as they get what they want. And
Yeah,
I'm not really in line with them. And there's people on this side that say we want lockdowns, not because they actually want to save lives, but because they want free subsidies and they don't want to have to go back to work and want to take their life in their own hand. So we got to understand that each side there are good people that want the lockdowns and there's bad people that want the lockdown. And on our side, there's bad people that don't want want freedom, and there's good people that want to prioritize freedoms.
yeah,
Right. So just because everybody has the same stance as you doesn't mean they have the same reason.
yeah. And I mean, the CERB kind of hurt us in a lot of sense because it really killed the service industry. Like people who were making minimum wage were making more money not working than working,
Yeah, I've
right?
heard a lot of horror stories about that.
Like what in terms of
Uh, So employees coming back and saying they only want cash, so they still collect their EI or not their EI, their CERB.
Okay.
Just strongholding the owners into some shady dealings.
Well, and then Ontario this year increases the minimum wage again, therefore putting more pressure on small businesses, right? Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's just a dollar." I'm like, "Well, if you understand anything about economics, that fucking dollar goes a long way, man."
They don't, and they also don't understand where that dollar comes from. If I own a business and the government says I have to pay my employee, which I had never paid an employee of my minimum wage. So
Yeah,
before we go on, I've never paid an employee minimum
yeah,
wage. So if the government tells me I got to pay an employee a dollar more, it's not coming out of my pocket. It's going to come out of your pocket, the client. So
yeah,
that's where inflation comes from. We don't understand this is a cycle. And some of these places that we look up to, we look up Sweden. They don't have a minimum wage.
yeah.
So how do we look up to them? We have to understand there's more to these complex situations than just throwing money at the problem.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been a lot of money thrown at the problem here in Canada to the point where we're in a super deficit, and the inflation is tremendous right now.
It's
I
insane.
mean, look at the price of gas. Like, fortunately, I invest, so I can time shit. I know if oil goes up $2, I know in 3 days it's gonna go up here,
Yep.
right? But for a country that's so rich in natural resources, so, like we look at the province of Alberta, like fucking hell, they're a gold mine to supply Canada with energy. Yet we are still buying energy from other
Well, when your
countries.
country's ran by an ideologue that has no idea how to run a country, what do you expect?
Yeah, and
We should be using our natural resources. And you know what we should do? We should take in that money to help fund and improve going green,
yeah,
not shutting it down. Why are we going to make ourselves go broke? We can go 100% zero emissions. And if China doesn't do anything, if India doesn't do anything, guess what?
it's
It
not gonna work.
doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't work. And it's
And it's
always
not like we're not buying oil. We're still buying oil from countries that disrespect human rights and the natural environment.
yeah,
What are we
and
doing?
I think this is where the people who are super I wouldn't say left, but people who are very environmentally conscious. This is where they kind of get lost in this fray because they think that this transition to green energy is like resisted. It's not. I think everybody on every side can agree that as a collective effort we could do more to keep Canada looking the fucking way it looks. Like
Yes.
it's a beautiful fucking place. We don't want it to look like shit, right? If we continue to burn natural oils and all that kind of shit, eventually it runs out. It causes damage. I don't think anyone's denying that at the rate that they're claiming.
There are extremists, but no, very few people.
Yeah,
Very few.
right. I'm not a climate change denier. I don't believe every narrative that they're pushing and the rates that they're happening uh,
Yep.
that they're done. But I'm not a denier that we need to be more conscious of those kind of things. But I'm also not retarded, and I and I know that you can't literally say in 2030 we're gonna be fucking net free. It's physically fucking impossible.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Explain to me. How will we possibly do that?
How can we like I have a Honda Civic that runs on fucking gas. I'm not trading it in for a fucking green car right now. No,
Yeah.
I'm not. The lifespan of my car, I'm driving it to the fucking end, and it's not going to
Yeah.
be 2030. I'm
Yeah.
telling, and like people are retarded. Like you're going to put a tax. Like look at California. They're going to put a tax on gas powered cars in like 2 years. I'm like, the electric vehicle space is not that friendly yet. So we don't
Well,
have the
it's also not that clear that it's going to save us in the way we hope it does.
yeah.
Like,
Like
what is it? I think it takes 10 years for an electric car to catch up to save the amount of fossil fuel or emissions. It takes 10 years for an electric car to be on the road or something like that. But also, what do we do with the batteries at the end of it?
yeah.
We just put them aside. They're not going to do any damage to the earth. Have we not thought about this?
Yeah, and like that's why Alberta, I feel really bad for, especially the people who work out there, who
Yeah.
because I think everyone thinks that they're like these fossil fueling burning. Like, no, if these companies can safely transition over 5, 10, 15 years to a cleaner, so these people aren't going to be unemployed. They will just have a different role on how to produce energy within those companies, right?
Well, the problem is we don't have a government. We have a group of activists running the country.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
How do we fix that? I mean, obviously voting them
How
out,
do
but
we fix that? Get it locked out.
yeah.
It's pretty simple.
But I think at this point, people's attitude is like, well, we vote him out, the next guy's just as bad, right?
Well, we could maybe, like you're saying, you voted it on the PPC, right?
Yeah,
And not necessarily because Maxime aligns with all your values, but you believe Canada needs to pull back right. Because if this is the center, our parties are over here, and the party we have is all the way over here. We
yeah,
need to pull back center, and that would be a lot of it. Is getting our parties back to center, having our parties talk about important things that are important to Canadians today, not always big picture stuff.
yeah. Kona's sneezing. Yeah.
No, that's the other one.
Oh, the other guy. Now, do you think government's too big? Do you think a smaller government is something Canada could benefit from right now?
I don't think you can make an argument that government needs to be bigger. Um, Government always should be smaller. I think the closest government should be handling the issue,
Meaning
right?
like provincial?
The closest you would go, city, and then provincial, and then federal. Of course, yeah. I think that's the way it is. What Alberta has, the issues they have, is much different than the Ontario, which is much different than the East Coast issues.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do believe government needs to be smaller. I think government needs to be less involved in our life, obviously, and I don't necessarily know. Pre-COVID, they weren't always involved in our life, and I think even for us coming from the MMA community, the MMA community was a fucking disaster in Ontario because the government was over involved. And I was still okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the MMA, they just put out the exemptions for training. Apparently, professional mixed martial arts is not allowed anymore.
It's
Like,
absolutely embarrassing.
yeah,
And my team will not stop training because rules like that are not just. They don't make any sense. If you're
well,
the NHL, you can. If you're going to the Olympics to fucking do anything, you can. Fuck that.
yeah, well, I know an Olympic wrestler who was ticketed for training last year.
Yeah.
Here in the city. Like, where is that coming from? Like,
Because we have a bunch of idiots in charge. They don't think about this shit. So I would, if I had to be honest about the situation, I would guess most policies are based off of financial reward for the government.
yeah,
And the NHL, regardless if they have fans or not, there's a financial reward for the government that allow them to play.
yeah,
Ontario, when was the last time we had an MMA event here? If Ontario had a decent commission, we would have more events every year, be more financially feasible for the Ontario government to see that there is a reason to kind of support this sport. And then maybe through the pandemic, they say, okay, maybe we should let them train. But
yeah,
because we're not bringing money, we're not helping out the economy on the level the UFC and the major organizations should be because of our government and our commissions. They're just like, fuck it. Why do we need them to train? They're not bringing money anyways.
yeah. So you think the whole thing is just strictly financially driven? Like,
I think right now, of course,
yeah,
it's any port in the storm for the government. The government's financially broke. They have no money.
yeah. They're just printing money, and then I mean, we're a few short weeks away from interest rate hike, which is gonna, you know,
We need that though.
yeah, we need like it's needed to cool inflation. But
Yes.
I think the misconception, like I'm very fortunate. Some of my clients, they're like hedge fund guys, so they explain a lot of the economics to me.
Yeah.
So when interest rates go up, it's not an immediate
No,
thing.
no, no, no.
You're not going to see a decline. Like you go to Costco, your bill's not going to go down $10.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen like that. But the problem and the history of the policymakers of what they do is they'll increase an interest rate, and then a month will go by and nothing will change, right? Because they feel there's an impatience game, right? They're not patient enough. Like when you put in an interest rate hike, it cools it down over a 6 month period.
Yep.
So then they're like, shit, it's not cooling stuff down. People are complaining. Let's jack it up again, jack it up again, jack it up again. Then all of a sudden you're up, uh, almost 1% or 2% over a year, which is almost drastic. It fixes the problem in the end, but
Yeah.
because of impatience of how bad it got in the first place, they always feel like they got to cool it down so quick, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we definitely need it. Like, if you haven't seen your grocery bill go up, yeah, like I don't know what the fuck where you're shopping. Tell me.
Yeah. No kidding. No
Okay,
kidding.
simple. Like my wife went into the store the other day, brought out like 5 things. I'm like, yeah, how much is that? She's like, oh, it was about $98. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
for that. And I mean, we're okay, but imagine families who are not.
For sure. You're on that poverty line.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
how we've had this discussion before. Like, how many people were living paycheck to paycheck before the pandemic?
Yeah.
And you
Well,
know,
people aren't even doing that now. They're just living off their visa.
yeah,
Like,
and
how can you blame them?
uh, and that's even worse.
Hmm.
That's even worse. And what are they gonna do? They're just not gonna eat. No, you gotta eat. And I mean, going back to other like look at what happened. The news that went viral this week with that family. I think it was on BC at the Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah, absolutely sickening.
Yeah. For anyone who's listening who doesn't know, basically a family of I think he's maybe 8 years old or less than that, but he has leukemia. Like he's got a serious fucking condition, and they told the parents because they're not vaccinated that they're not allowed to stay there. They're evicting him. They're kicking him out, and it's absolutely like this is one of those cases where it's probably happening more than we know.
For sure.
And what the fuck? Like, put yourself in that person's shoes if that was your kid. Like,
Yep.
would you be happy? Would you just bend over and take that? You know what I
Yep.
mean? And that's what's happening in our country right now.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because all these things that we're fighting over right now are moral stances. Take
Yeah,
the vaccine because I'm morally superior than you. You didn't take the vaccine, you're not morally superior. And then you guys go this far, and like you're kicking out a kid that needs treatment.
yeah.
Do you understand what you're doing? In the name of doing good, you have kicked a kid out of treatment. Congratulations. Do you still think you're doing good?
And there are people who will say yes, take the
Well,
vaccine.
again, they're ideologues. They're ideologues. They aren't thinking. They aren't actually digesting. And if everything you stand for is based off of um, thought, not actually outcome, it's always going to lead to a mess like this.
Yeah, and I mean, I this case angers me too because if that was my kid, like I'd be like, you remember that movie John Q with fucking
Yeah, absolutely,
with Denzel
absolutely,
Washington? I'll be fucking barricading that hospital, being like, "Yo, give him the fucking treatment." Like I'm not coming.
absolutely.
I go to jail for that, right? But fortunately, I don't have to deal with that. But like, it's gotten to a point now where the population of people who have decided not to take the vaccine, I think they're almost nervous about getting sick now because they're because of this attack that has been coming from all angles at them. Like if I go to the hospital, they deny me treatment.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And that's a given right. We pay taxes here. That's part of public health care.
Yeah, you prepaid for that healthcare, and that this whole idea of like, well, if you don't take the vaccine, you don't deserve healthcare. Are you going to give them the money back?
Yeah,
On average, Canadians pay about $5,000 to $5,500 a year in healthcare.
yeah,
You're going to give them that money back? What if that person hasn't used that for, let's say they're 50 and haven't used that healthcare at all for 30 years? You're going
yeah.
to give them all that money back?
No, they're not gonna
What are
get
you
shit.
talking about?
Yeah, and I mean, those are the small things that even though I love the U.S., those are the small things that separated Canada from the U.S. pre-pandemic. Like the ability to, hey, I have a health card. I can go to the hospital and I can get treatment. I might have to wait fucking 6 hours, but I can get treatment. I can get the care I need. Uh, but in America, you can't do that. Now we're crossing that line where we're gonna be like that, but even worse.
Yeah,
Like, right? Because not a lot of because of the way our system is run, not a lot of people have private health insurance like in the U.S. Like in the U.S., most people they have a private health insurance because there's no public health
mhm.
care system. Now you're crossing the line where you're going to say you're denied access to health care, but
You don't have the other
you
option.
don't have the other option.
Yeah.
So what the fuck? I'm just going to lay in the street and die. Like I know two or three people who have cancer now. Like one of my friends that I train with jujitsu, his wife has just developed cancer. I don't know what stage. That's none of my business, but it's terrible altogether. My mom had it, so I know. She's more nervous about her, like she's vaccinated and all that shit, but she's still nervous about her access to care, uh, rather than focusing on getting healthy, right?
Yeah.
Because of lockdowns, they're more. nervous that she's not going to be able to receive the treatment that she rightfully
For sure.
deserves.
Yep.
Um, and instead of like that, just adds on to like if for people who don't understand health, stress is a big like that can exasperate any condition that you have,
Mhm.
right? And for someone who's going through something like that, that's a stress that they don't even need. And they've done all the right things according to the government. They did all
Yep.
the, they got all their shots, they did everything, but still, no, you're not going to get access to it. Like,
Yep.
when the fuck are we talking about here?
It's crazy.
I mean, we could go in circles and circles and circles about it, but as somebody who's critical, like I would put you in the weight class as a critical thinker, right?
Try to be.
Somebody who's critical thinking. How do we work our way out of this mess? I mean, we're 3 years into this. How does an individual work their brain to start putting things together?
By having conversation with people, speak up, say stuff to people. You don't have to be a jerk and be a bully about it,
Yeah,
but have these conversations. We have um, this massive silent group of Canadians that don't say nothing. One, because they don't want to lose their job, and two, because they just don't want to be received as an asshole.
yeah,
Like the worst possible thing we could do as Canadians is leave this country a worse place, and we're doing that.
yeah.
So it's about time to have these conversations.
Well, I mean, this is why I love doing podcasts and stuff because it gives people the ability to have the conversation. It gives me the ability to have the conversations with
Yeah,
other people because sometimes I find when I'm just here sitting thinking about things into my to myself, it kind of makes me go a little nuts, right? But then when I get to
yeah.
verbalize it with people, and not everyone has to agree with me. I don't give a
No,
shit, right?
verbally, though.
Yeah, but like I've come across so many people who don't agree with me on a lot of things, and that's perfectly fine. Like
Yeah,
I have um I have a client who's they're all about everything, and they got their kids vaccinated and all that stuff, and I don't necessarily agree with all their stances on everything, but
nope.
that's their right to do so, and we talk about it, and we still have a great relationship. Like I see them twice a week. I help, and there's no animosity towards anything, and that's how it should be.
For
But
sure. I believe in. I don't think you should get kids vaccinated by any means.
yeah,
Um, well, okay, that's not true. I'm not a doctor. There's some situation I'm sure out there where they're like, this would make sense for the kid.
yeah,
But I believe in your right to make the decision for your kid, whether
yeah,
I think it's right or wrong. That's part of freedom. I have to swallow some of my pride to say that you have the right to do something I think is wrong because it's within the law.
yeah.
That's freedom, guys.
And I look at somebody like Joe Rogan. He's a big polarizing figure in terms of his podcast and his reach and his audience. And I listened to that. Like I listened to about 30 minutes of the interview he did with Dr. Malone. Uh, when it first came out, like like only 2 weeks ago. It seems like forever ago since Christmas because of all the shit we've gone through in Canada
Yeah,
since,
no
right?
kidding.
Um, but I listened to the first half an hour and then I stopped. Not because I didn't want to hear the rest, but I put our kids to sleep one night. I told my wife, I'm like, we need to listen to this together, right? And so we listened to it and we watched the interview together, and it was valuable data. That was all data driven. It was a great fucking interview because it actually reveals some of the truths that are out there with
Mhm.
scientifically backed data. And this is just going back to your comment on the kids' vaccination, right? And so I think a lot of the people's decisions is based on not understanding things. Like everyone's like, you got to look at the
It's on
science.
fear. Fear.
Here, you got to look at the science. You got to look at the science. Well, I had COVID. My fucking kids were crawling all over me. I think the most they had was a fever for a
Yeah.
couple hours, killed with a little children's Tylenol. They're good. The science shows that this virus doesn't go past the throat for kids, right? That's one of the reasons why they're so unaffected. I'm sure there are different cases.
Yeah, yeah. Exceptions
There's,
every
there's
rules.
there's there's variants and different cases for each and every kid, but statistically, they're not a threat. They're not a threat to
Nope.
to have significant death or illness from this virus. They're resilient. That's what kids are, right? They have growing immune systems. They're resilient. And for me, it's like you're going to put an extra risk on them. Like I think the big thing for me is myocarditis. It's very ununderstood, right? They
Hmm.
think they think, oh, it's reversible. No, that's a lifelong condition.
For sure.
Swelling of the heart. Like my dad has heart condition. Inflammation of the heart is a lifelong thing. It's not something that is going to just be there temporarily
Yep.
and go away. Like the cure for it is by not doing anything.
Yep.
Like that's literally the.
Yeah.
So if one of the side effects that your unfortunate your kid gets is myocarditis, you literally have to tell your kid stop running,
Yep.
stop playing.
Yep.
Like
And what other long term side effects too, though?
yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
And everybody can say, well, these are safe vaccines. Sure, short term study, they seem relatively safe. What about the long term? Like, that doesn't make any sense to give it to a kid. If
Yeah,
you're 80 and you want to take it, yeah, you should be taking as many as you possibly can, I think.
and I encourage my parents to.
I was exactly the same.
When my parents said they were getting the vaccine, at first in my head I was like maybe, and but I didn't verbalize that to them. I was like, no, if you think that's the right thing for you guys, go ahead,
Yep,
right? And lo and behold, my mom and dad got their little booster 2 weeks before Christmas, and they still fucking got the Omicron.
yep,
And
yep,
and they're trying to censor that podcast, and he explains why. He
yep,
explains why people you're getting the same shot for the same strain of the virus.
for sure. There's no
And
there's no different in the vaccine from
yeah,
the first one to the third one.
yeah, so no difference. So sure you're protected against that fucking Delta and the original shit, but the new shit you're
To an
not,
extent, yeah, yeah,
right? So like, it's a perfect example right within my own family of like, they, this is what's happening, and
yeah.
and the sooner we can kind of wake up and get out of it, I mean, it's. I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record going over and over and over
For
about it,
sure.
but the sooner we can wake up and kind of let other people, like they're trying to cancel Joe Rogan now, which good luck, it's not gonna fucking happen. Uh, first of all, he doesn't give a shit. Second of all, he has more ratings than fucking CNN and all those places combined
For
right now.
sure.
Like, uh, this 200 doctors are trying to go after him. I'm like, if you really think he's spreading that much misinformation, go on his show. That's why he had Gupta on there,
Yep,
right? And
yep,
prove him wrong. Like
yep.
like you said, have the discussion.
Hmm.
If your side is so right, if you're so right about everything, then go on and prove him wrong. Go on and prove Malone
Well,
wrong.
and I think that's why you're not seeing those conversations because it's not so clear and it's not so obvious. Both sides have great points,
Yeah,
right? And both sides have stupid points. So it's not
exactly.
that clear. But
Yeah,
when one side's saying, no, we are absolutely right and you are absolutely wrong, you can't have that conversation because it's not going to turn out that way. You're both going to have to concede at some point. You're both going to be like, okay, well, yeah, now that we've had the conversation, it's a little bit more obvious what we should do, but we're not doing that. So we have to protect information. Censoring information usually doesn't imply that you have more or better information.
yeah.
Right?
Wow.
Shouldn't you combat misinformation with real information? Wouldn't that be a great way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a big thing going on right now. The censorship going on. I, per- I mean, I'm not like fucking Joe Rogan, so it's not like people are coming after me, right? Or same with you. It's not like people are coming after you. But the minute you say anything online that goes against it, like the algorithms will pick your ass up.
Oh,
And
for sure. I've noticed that. I've seen that, but that's just life. I don't
uh,
get too
yeah,
upset.
I mean, it's social media. You can fucking turn it off.
Yeah,
That's sort of my point. Like cyberbullying. I never understood it because like if someone was being mean to me online, I just delete it and turn it off and it goes away, right? But like if you're not agreeing with the information that somebody's presenting, then maybe you shouldn't follow them anymore,
yeah,
right? Like if you don't agree with Joe Rogan's stance on stuff, then like I love the guy and I love his show, but I don't agree necessarily with everything he says,
no,
right?
there's not a person on earth I agree with everything they say.
Exactly. So, like, if I don't like it, I turn it off. It is as
Yeah,
simple as that. This is the power of that we have with all these technical devices. But I think that this cancel culture and these social networks, they think that everything that you consume should be what they want you to consume.
what they agree upon.
Yeah.
That's
Whereas,
your version of freedom. Freedom, like that's what you think freedom should be.
yeah,
Freedom, as long as I agree to it. Like that's insane.
Yeah, and so and it's just not clicking with a lot of people, and they don't see it, and it's sometimes it's because they don't consume media that
It's
much, or
because they haven't thought long enough, man. They haven't thought long enough. That's the problem. It's like when you're in the position that you feels right and that is a side that's not going to get censored, it's really easy to be like, yeah, let's censor, right? But
yeah,
work through that because at some point you find yourself on the other side of that aisle, and then you're going to be censoring. But well, this is absolutely wrong. No, this isn't absolutely wrong. That 10 years ago was absolutely wrong, and you accepted it,
yeah.
and this is what you get now.
Well, the way I kind of view it is, as a martial artist, you'd appreciate this way of viewing it too. Is like if somebody says they have a technique that works awesome, right?
Mhm.
And they say, "Oh, this choke will work 100% of the time." Well, go ahead, do it to me.
Yeah.
Like let's try it out in rolling, or let's try it out in sparring and see if you can do it to me. And chances are, most of the time, it's a stupid fucking technique, and it's not going to work,
Mhm.
right? But the whole point is like having that discussion. Like martial arts is a discussion with physical abilities, right? So
Mhm.
we have that discussion. Okay, it didn't work. Well, why didn't it work? Let's troubleshoot it and come to a middle ground and find out if it is effective technique or not. Because I've been coached by you before, and I know that there's some things I've done. You're like, Ashton, don't fucking do that. It's low percentage. Don't fucking do that. It's
Mhm.
not right. Whereas, like you were saying before, discussion, right? If we were to simply just sit and talk about these things together, well, we can find that middle ground, and everyone will be happy instead of
Or maybe not happy. Like you're always going to have unhappy people,
yeah,
right? But at least everybody has the opportunity to be happy.
or understand each other's point of view, right?
Yeah, it's a fair playing ground. That's all.
Did you think that people just don't want to understand other people's point of view now at this point?
Well, the COVID issue, yeah, I don't think people want to understand. I think they've dug their heels in at this point. If you're 2 years into something and you're not willing to kind of digest the other side, you've dug your heels in. There's no real saving you.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you brought up a really good point where you're saying like not every side of this is right. You know what I mean?
No,
If you're against everything, not everything that you're against is right. Not every like in my opinion, I this is my personal opinion. I do think certain public health measures do need to be in place
yeah.
for certain times. Right? Lockdowns absolutely not. 100% no. But I do think that, limiting amount of people in certain places during outbreaks does help a little bit, but not really, right? I think
Well,
that
it depends on your verdict. What's help?
yeah.
Do we
Well, like
do we think we're going to end with less deaths in Sweden in a year and a half from now,
no,
or are we going to catch them? We're going to catch them.
we're gonna catch it. But my point is like Costco. Let's like take a glaring example, right? Costco has let's hypothetically speak a limit of 1,000 people, right? If I was to tell Costco you have to reduce by 10%, it's not gonna fucking change much,
Mhm.
right? But maybe it will, and that's the problem though. We don't have evidence that any of these measures change things, right?
Well, so we do have kind of evidence that suggests that lockdowns don't do too much.
Mhm.
They prolong, but they're not on the grand scheme of things. They're not doing too much. I think lockdowns shouldn't be. You said 100%. There should be no lockdowns. I don't agree with that. I
No,
agree when the first came around the virus, we should maybe have locked down, assess what was going on, realize okay, this is attacking this type of individual. These people are safe. Allow these people to go on. Focus on these people. Like, I believe there's a time and place for lockdowns just to get our feet underneath us and kind of understand what we're looking at.
okay, I
But
agree with
once you're done that, like that's it.
yeah, what's like I always when this first happened, I was the first to like I took the precautions too. Like I put this thing on my face because we didn't know anything. We didn't know any
Mm-hmm.
better. Like we only did it once, but like one time I brought home the groceries and we fucking wiped it down, right?
Oh, jeez.
Right? That was like the first week, right? And
Yeah,
then after that, my wife's like, "This is fucking stupid," and
yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, it's stupid." Like there was the whole unknown. We all thought it was the fucking zombie apocalypse. Like we were gonna,
Well, that's the funny thing, though, man. I think I got trapped into this right from day one. I was really um, staying on top of the information, staying on top of like who was getting sick and all. And it was very clear it was old, elderly people. It
yeah,
was very clear from day one. I'm not saying we shouldn't have locked down. We should have locked down at the beginning, but it's very obvious who was getting sick and what this virus was.
yeah. And like even during that time, like we would hear like ambulance sirens outside, and my wife would be like, we would look at each other like, oh, maybe that's somebody going to the hospital for COVID, and
Yeah.
it wasn't the fucking case, right?
No.
But it was the fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
But as things got known, and we figured, like you said, figures things out, then why are we doing lockdowns 3, 4, 5? And to be honest with you, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I don't think this is the end of it. I really don't. I, I
Hard to think it would be.
I don't think this is our last lockdown. I don't believe that this is over. I think that COVID was a gateway for something bigger. And like, they blame conspiracy theory. That's all conspiracy. Well, then why have they been right since the fucking start? Because
Well, yeah. So there's been a lot of conspiracy theories that have came right,
and a
or
lot
came
wrong.
true
Yeah, and a lot have not come
for
true.
sure. Now, is there a global agenda going on? Obviously,
Yeah.
you can't deny that. You'd have to live with your head in the sand to deny that. Do they coexist? In some ways, I think they do. In some ways, they don't. Are there people trying to use this to take advantage of it and push these agendas? Of course. Are there people out there that are just scared? Like, do you think Doug Ford's a globalist? Well, Doug Ford's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
He's a fucking retard.
Yeah.
He has no idea what he's doing. He's lost control of the steering wheel, and there's no greater agenda here. Maybe besides like our IDs going online,
Yeah.
going on our apps like that. But he's just an idiot. He's lost control and he doesn't know how to fix it.
Yeah, and why he doesn't even have control of his own household. His daughters are like they're victim to his own policies. Like
Yep.
his for people who don't know, his son-in-law lost his job because he didn't want to be vaccinated. He made that choice, and like it's internally torn his whole family up. So I mean, like he's a human being too. I'm not trashing any like people are human beings. Like whether
No,
they're
I'll trash him. I'll
yeah,
trash him. This is the thing with politics. You want to be a politician, you
you're
want
gonna
to mess with people's life, you deserve the repercussions. I'm not saying somebody should go out there and kill him. But
yeah,
when
that's
people
what I
talk
mean.
bad about you, too fucking bad. Don't seek positions of power if you don't want people to talk bad about you.
Yeah, that's what I
It's
meant.
that fucking simple.
I didn't wish death upon him. Like some people like
Yeah.
want him to die. Like
No, 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 of course
I
not.
don't wish death upon anybody. But if you don't want these repercussions, you can't be making you're the one making the policies. So
Yeah.
you have to be accountable for those things,
You don't
right?
like that the people that you forced into bankruptcy are mad at you and calling you a fat asshole? Like, you don't like that? You didn't think that was going to happen?
Or
Like, that's just the way it is.
standing outside your house protesting.
Yeah.
If you really thought about your neighbors, if you were really thinking about them, you wouldn't have made those calls in the first place because
Yeah.
you would have knew that this would have happened, right? But
Yeah.
the illusion that you can make these calls in positions of leadership and not be affected, I think that smokescreen is kind of breaking down a little bit.
For
Like
sure.
like one of the ones that bugs me and it's not getting talked about enough is that fucking dipshit that runs our country. He literally, you can find the quote, you can find it in comparison to Hitler. Hitler said something almost identically, right? And regardless of what side you're on the fucking conversation, it doesn't fucking matter. It's a dangerous thing to see one of the most evil people in the history of our human race that said something that's almost word for word what a current sitting fucking prime minister in one of the I would say one of the most predominant countries in the world.
Mhm.
He fucking said that. Like if
Yeah.
you don't see the division that causes and
Yeah.
the problem behind it, I don't like. I don't even think I can help you at that point.
No, well, a lot of people, when you talk about Holocaust stuff, when you talk about Nazi stuff, people have this emotional reaction to it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Justin Trudeau is a Nazi
No.
or doing the same atrocities that the Nazis did or Hitler did. That's not what we're saying at all.
No.
But if you can recognize pattern setting, this is not good pattern setting, guys. There's a big difference there. So don't convolute us saying this is the Holocaust. It's the exact same as the Holocaust. It's not. It's not even remotely close.
No.
You have a person that ran the Holocaust saying really bad language, and a Canadian, a free citizen, or sorry, not free citizen, the leader of a free country, using that same sort of language, and you guys are saying this is acceptable? It's not acceptable.
No, that's not. And like his comments that he did in one of those French ones, it was not too long ago. It was probably just a week where
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
yeah, anybody who doesn't do what they want him to do or like take the vaccine or I think the comment was basically towards more than just the vaccine, but anybody who went against the narrative was generally a racist and a misogynist. That's fucking retarded.
Yeah, essentially, he was saying the people that are unvaccinated tend to be racist and misogynist too. Okay, sure. Show me the science on that. Show me the evidence on that. That
Yeah,
seems like an opinion. That seems anecdotal to me.
yeah, but those are the kind of things out of a leader that
Yeah.
should not be coming out of the mouth of a leader.
Well, and a leader that is claiming to be a
Inclusive.
unifying leader, not
Yeah,
a divisive leader. Like if Trump says that, you're like, yeah, he's an asshole.
yeah.
When
Well, I
Justin
mean,
Trudeau says that, people are just like, oh, that's okay because Justin Trudeau said it, and he's not an asshole. You know, he is an asshole.
yeah. Well, I mean, the problem with Trump was very, I don't care what people side. Some people hate him, some people love him. The problem with Trump, that a lot of people had, was that he said the things that you didn't want to hear, and unfortunately, it hurt some people's feelings, and some people. And I mean, there was that's a whole. We can go into like 3 hours about fucking Donald Trump, but
For sure.
um, that was one of those things where he wasn't a politician coming into it, right? He wasn't.
Well, that's why he won
Yeah,
because the Americans have been fucked by politicians for how many years?
yeah, and so he said things that politicians didn't like. He was more honest. He was more honest than a lot of people with his verbally. And I'm not talking about
Yeah,
truth. I'm talking about
yeah, yeah.
he just fucking spoke,
He said
right?
what he thought.
He said what he thought, right? And there's a big difference between Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau, in my opinion, because those thoughts
Mr. Script himself,
that,
he doesn't have a
well,
thought in his head.
like Justin Trudeau's thoughts, what he's saying, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I could be fucking wrong and you could disagree with me. But the thing is, like, when he says a comment like that, to me, that is showing a bigger picture of the party. That's sort of the agenda, and
For sure.
he's verbalizing what they're going for, what they're
For
trying to
sure.
push along. Whereas Donald Trump was just saying stupid shit. He would just say dumb shit,
Again,
right?
it's ideologue versus a retard, maybe. Trump was the retard, and Justin Trudeau's ideologue.
Yeah, and I mean, I mean, he angers Trudeau angers me so much.
He
But
should. He should anger every Canadian.
yeah, and I mean, he should. And one of the things that before we wrap this shit up, because I know you got shit to do, you busy man. But uh, one of the things I wanted to kind of bring out to people is there's a Maxime Bernier, and I'm not a fucking Maxime Bernier pusher, and I'm not trying to push him on anybody, but I'm trying to bring up a good example of a leadership and what a leader should do this day and age, where we have
Mhm.
all the tools and information available to everybody. Maxime Bernier went on a podcast with Jordan Peterson. Now, half the shit in the podcast was more about the election than anything, right? But the point I'm trying to get across is where him and Jordan were talking about things, just talking about issues that he wanted to change. And Jordan always plays devil's advocate because he's extremely educated. And but one of the things that came out of that conversation for me as a listener was there was stuff about natives and things that are going on with our First Nations that I didn't understand, right?
Mhm.
About the Indian Act and like Jordan pressed him on those issues. How would you resolve certain things like that? And I didn't know personally that natives don't necessarily they can't own land. So like you can develop your house, you can put in renovations, you can do all that stuff if you live on a reserve. But you never really own that land. It's part of like the reserve owns that land, right? And to me that was eye opening. So these people we're always talking about helping, every child matters and helping First Nations. And like to me, understanding the fact that well, if they can never own an asset on their own land, how can they ever fucking move forward, right?
The generational wealth.
Yeah, there's no like my parents can pass on. They can write in their will. We're gonna sell this house when we die, and each of our kids get a certain that's generational wealth, right? Well, whereas these are people living in Canada. They're not far away. They're fucking living in our country. Who
Yep.
there's
No, we're living in their country.
yeah, we're living in their country, but uh, they are stripped of that right to just accumulate generational wealth. And the only way I was able to process that information, like politicians don't talk about that on TV. The only way that was going to get out was by having open forum discussion with a psychology fucking genius and Jordan Peterson and bringing that out. And then somebody like me who's a critical thinker, I'm like, wow, that's a fucking big deal. Maybe we should solve that before we fucking argue with each other about who's getting a fucking shot in their arm or not, right?
But we're not looking to solve problems. We're almost in politics looking to create problems to divide us,
Yeah,
right? And the censorship, this um, if you don't believe there's 400 different genders out there, you're a bad person. And if you speak up, that even means you're a more bad person because you're actually speaking publicly about that. So we put these really important social topics out there, and only half the people can put their input in because however you want to say it again. If we're talking about race issues, I'm a white man. I
yeah,
can't have an opinion on that. If you're a straight male, you can't have conversations on gay topics or transgender topics, things like that.
yeah,
Why not? We're all part of the same society. Everybody should be able to have a say of what's going on. And you should be able to have a say without people saying you're a bad person for that.
absolutely.
Just because I don't think there's 1,000 different genders out there doesn't mean I support your right to wake up today and feel like whatever you want.
Yeah. If you want to be a rhinoceros today, be it. I don't give a fuck. Right?
Absolutely.
as long
Absolutely.
as long as if you're doing it in your house, I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit at all. I support you, and I hope you're happy.
Yeah.
I think, so that's the thing. I support you, and I hope you're happy. But I think we're not leading to a happier outcome because we're not having the real conversations, and we're allowing these people to dive into their neurosis, dive into their obviously mental health issues, and not talk about it.
Yeah, and that's huge. And I think you nailed it right on the head. Like, there's so many different social issues, and we don't have to agree on them. But if we can talk about them and understand the other person's point of view,
A
then
truly honest conversation.
yeah, like I don't give a flying fuck if you want to believe whatever gender you want. Like
Nope.
it's not like it's none of my business.
Nope. None.
I get up every day. I train my clients. I go fucking train myself. I come home. I fucking work on my business. I play with my kids. That's the extent of my life. If you want to be a fucking believe you're cisgendered, whatever the fuck, I don't know them. I'm not disrespecting them. I'm just saying I don't know the pronouns. If you want to believe you're a fucking pronoun that they go for it. All the power to you.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
billions of people on or millions of people on this earth. Everybody's entitled to make yourself happy. Whatever belief system you have, make yourself happy. Just don't force me on it, right?
Nope.
And I think that's the biggest problem we have right now. And like discussions like we have, there's certain things I'm sure you didn't agree with me on, and that's fucking fine. Like,
Everybody on Earth, man, and that's part of life, and that's we need to get used to having people have different opinions and saying, "Hey, man, you're still a good person. I get where you're coming from."
yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I mean, I think that's a good place to fucking leave this at.
Yeah.
Be a good fucking person. Just understand other people's opinion, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, thank you for talking to me today. I appreciate it. And thank you
Oh,
for
my
taking
pleasure,
the
buddy. Thanks
time.
for having me.
And I mean, I hope that we can get back to a place where everybody can just be free again. But I'm not trying to be bleak. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done. A lot more conversations like we had today. Other people need to do. Whether
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be public. Doesn't need it can be private within your own home or on the phone or something. But like
Yeah.
I know you're a big advocate of the mental health aspect. If you know people that are struggling, like just talk to them.
Yep.
I think that's the biggest thing, right?
Yep.
Like the other day, I had a hard day mentally with everything that was going on. I just talk to my wife. I'm lucky that I have somebody to talk to. But if you don't, to be a good fucking dude and like people need to just talk to people.
Yeah. You have friends. You have people. You're never alone.
No, no,
You just have to be willing to reach out.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. No worries. Thanks for having me. We'll talk
All
soon.
right. All right.
Hey,
Take care.
everybody. Thank you for watching. Please do me a favor. Click the like below. Share on YouTube. Share on Instagram. Share on Facebook. Spread the word so I can keep creating more content for you. Keep providing you with a great podcast experience. Peace out.